Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustinoTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Download. We're going to go through the most recent Arsenal transfer news. And yeah, there's about 86 of you guys in here already. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's crazy like that some of you guys would still hang out like even on Saturday, which is, yeah, like I have nothing to do besides this, but I'm sure you guys have things to do. So just spending like an hour or so with me, like I really do appreciate it. We are closing in on 10,000 subscribers here at SheKnowsArsenal, which would be an amazing accomplishment considering I think the channel's been around for maybe like a year or so, maybe a year and a couple of months. And so I really do thank you guys for all of your support, sharing the content and always being here and subscribing and liking and all that kind of stuff, because never would have thought a year ago I'd be close to 10,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for that. Now, today, obviously, there was some Orny bombs last night, some Fabrizio Romano updates regarding Arsenal's transfer activity. So I thought about going live last night, but then I was like, no, I'll just wait till the next morning. And I'm glad I did, because we got some other important updates too, in some of our kind of like our other transfer targets as well. So now I can kind of put it all together into one neat and tidy video instead of having a bunch of different things here and there. So we'll talk about kind of what broke last night, and then we'll also talk about Sekou Fofana. We've been linked to him, Lens midfielder, plays in France, obviously. So we'll talk about that rumor, and we'll also talk about something that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about, and I would imagine it's because it's worrisome. Like in the midst of so many good rumors, something else that's not so positive is coming out, and that's in regards to William Saliba, and the fact that, or what RMC is saying, is that Marseille are very confident that they can bring Saliba back this summer, and they're preparing to go all the way up to 30 million euros or something like that to bring him back. So that's definitely something that I think amongst all the positivity does need to be spoken about, because I don't think the transfer window feels the same if William Saliba leaves this summer, if I'm honest. But we'll talk about that. And then just to end it off, I did want to have just a general discussion with you guys around whether or not you felt like Edu has gained your respect. You know, maybe he always had your respect. Maybe you always thought that he was competent and really good at his job. But I don't feel like that's the overwhelming, opinion around Edu and what he's done at Arsenal so far. So I did want to get your guys' opinion on that, and whether or not it's too early to say that he's, this really good technical director. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the discussion that we're going to have. So there's 135 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to go ahead and get it popping. All right. So let's start off with Lisandro Martinez. This is just going to be like a quicker update on him, because nothing has happened as of yet. But what I will say is that it's becoming more and more clear that Arsenal have more interested in him than anybody else. And even though Ajax are reluctant to sell him, which I kind of understand that, because they've already lost Gravenberch, they've lost Majraoui, they've lost Sebastian Haller. So they've already lost quite a few key players for them. So with, Ten Hag wanting to take Antony, and also they were looking at Urian Timber, I'm sure Ajax is looking at their team like, okay, so how many other players are we willing to lose? So they bumped up the price for Lisandro Martinez, which makes a lot of sense, because if you don't want to sell, if you're going to have to, because the player is pushing, which reports have said that Lisandro Martinez is pushing for a move, that you want to get as much as you possibly can from the sale. So this is coming from Ryan Taylor, Ryan Taylor Sport. He's saying that reported that they're willing to make an improved offer, which is Arsenal, but did mention that 40 million pounds could be enough to see Ajax soften their position on a sale at the moment they don't want to sell, which we kind of already know that. Arsenal remain in dialogue with Ajax over a deal for Lisandro Martinez. There's a sense of an offer around 40 million, blah, blah, blah. So he's interested. He's pushing. They don't want to sell. We're going to have, he's a priority. It doesn't seem like Arsenal have been turned off by the idea of paying a higher fee for Lisandro because he's an important target. He's somebody that I do think Arteta really likes. And so I would imagine that we would push forward for this deal to happen. This is a really important transfer. I've said this in past videos, but for me, this is an important transfer because of the positions that he can cover at a high level. So he can play left back, he can play center back, he can play DM. And he also offers something different on the ball that Kieran Tierney and Gabriel don't offer. Now, that's not me saying that I don't think Tierney and Gabriel are good players. I think they offer something different. So, having that versatility, having that ability to play in a different way than we would normally play, give us a different look, having the opposition have to make changes due to like what we can do to them, I do think is a good thing for Arsenal because we have been one-dimensional quite often. There's been times where you just knew what we were going to do. So if you have somebody like Kieran Tierney, who's more of a power and pace type left back, a very good power and pace left back when he's fit, if you have somebody like that, but you also have Lisandro Martinez that can play more inverted, then teams have to change the way that they play against you based on who you have out there. You could have a different look. Lisandro Martinez is very good on the ball in terms of his playmaking ability from deep in and around the halfway line in the center circle. And I do think Gabriel has really improved in that part of his game. He was actually like statistically better on the ball last season than Ben White. But the range of passing that Lisandro Martinez has is superior to what Gabriel can offer us. So I do think that this is an important signing. I've tried to look up, examples of when Lisandro Martinez has played in center midfield. And I saw some clips where it looked like he was playing there. So I'm just going to take it on face value that he can do it. But if you have that type of technical ability, I'm sure you can play in midfield, as well, which would be good for us because we know Thomas Partey, even though I love him to death, but he can't stay fit. And just a little, update on Thomas Partey. Charles Watts, confirmed that Thomas Partey is ready to play. He's fit and ready to go. So that's some more good news for us. But making sure that you underpin that position is important. So like I've kind of already said, this signing is important to me. Very important. So yes, Keenan, we're going to talk about Sekou Fofana as well. Karthik says, if we get Raphinha, personally, I think we'll reach the level like Liverpool along with Martinez and Tella or Fofana or Tielemans or Fofana. Hope Bellerin stay for a season at least. Let's see what you guys are saying. Lynn says, rumor has it that Ajax has agreed to sell Martinez. He will also be covered for Partey. Exactly. Let's see. The reason why I made also for the discussion around whether or not you respect Edu, the reason why I put yes or no is so that if I put the third option, you guys are going to pick that, which is I'm not sure yet, I want you guys to have to choose. So yeah, it's either yes or no. Sorry. I set you guys up there. Let's see. High Tech J says, I'm honestly more excited about Lisandro than Raphinha, even though I badly want both. I'm on the same page as you. I think this is I don't like to say transformative because then people are like, what do you mean by that? But I just feel like we haven't had that cover. Like not having Tierney cover has really killed us. Not being able to rotate Gabriel. I'm not saying that it killed us, but if you had a more rested and ready to go Gabriel at the end of the season, what could have happened then? So I do think it's important. I do think it's really important. Mark makes a really interesting point here, says getting Jesus makes it easier to convince Martinez and Raphinha. I've alluded to that as well. it's just speculation and projection on my end. But I would imagine that if you can convince somebody like Gabriel Jesus that this is a place that he wants to be, being able to also look at, Raphinha looking, at Arsenal and saying, okay, well, somebody else, prime age, Brazilian international, coming from Manchester City is willing to go there in his prime, then maybe that's a good place for me as well. And Lisandro is also prime age South American international that could look at the group of players that we now have and say, this might be a good place for me to go. So I do agree with that. I think those things are really important. So just moving forward, I know because that's not a very big, update, but I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there. We'll go through this one quickly as well. Jesus is a done deal in principle for 45 million. That was the Orni bomb, Fabrizio Romano bomb. Everybody was bombing yesterday evening with this news. It also came. This is the thing I really love about the transfer window, you guys. It's all about dominoes and puzzle pieces and different moving parts. So also, that Calvin Phillips was also announced as pretty much done deal in principle, for 42 million pounds plus add-ons from Leeds going to Manchester City. And that was the deal that needed to get done in order for the Jesus deal to get done. So that all of this stuff kind of works together. So Gabriel Jesus might have been done for a while, but they just needed to make sure that they could bring in, Calvin Phillips. Deals happen in order for certain teams. And also Manchester City, they've been in trouble for FFP in the past, and they want to be able to get at least 90 million in sales for Gabriel Jesus and Sterling so that they can reinvest into the squad. So that makes a lot of sense that Calvin Phillips, that deal was essentially announced, and then a couple minutes later, then Gabriel Jesus was pretty much announced by different outlets. Various outlets were all kind of saying the same thing, that it's done in principle. And when he gets back from vacation, which was another thing that, I was telling a lot of different people, is that he's on vacation. Of course, everything can be pretty much done, but he has to do his medical. He has to come in, he has to sign the papers. Like there's some other things that need to get ironed out before we announce him, because I saw a lot of Arsenal fans be like, announce Gabriel Jesus. Well, it's not done. Now we know within the next 7 to 10 days he'll be announced. Calvin Phillips was the domino that kind of needed to fall, and now we can move forward with the Gabriel Jesus deal. So very excited about this one, especially because it has been reported that like multiple teams were interested in him. It wasn't just Chelsea and Spurs. It was Juventus. It was Real Madrid. A lot of teams were interested in him. So we did a good job to convince him. And this is why what I was saying, like, because there's a lot of people at the beginning of the window, which made a lot of sense. Like, I don't think that this is like a bad way to think or the wrong way to think, but there was a lot of, why would Gabriel Jesus go to Arsenal? I think the World Cup has helped us a lot, it being in the winter, because players want to move to places where they know they're going to get playing time. And if you want to get into the Brazilian national team, you want to get into the Argentinian national team, you want to get into national teams where it's not easy to get in, and there's a lot of other choices, to go with. Like Brazil is fully stocked in the attacking positions. Martinelli, Rodrigo, Vinny Jr., Neymar, Richarlison, Raphinha, I think I already said Anthony, Coutinho. Like they have tons of players that can play in those positions. So if you're not playing for your club team, you won't get picked. So having that plus the familiarity and the trust between Gabriel Jesus and Edu, who does have influence within the Brazilian national team setup, as well as his relationship with Arteta, makes it, I thought it always felt more likely that it could happen than any other deal because of all those extra factors. Of course, if somebody else could offer him the same things that we could, but more wages and things like that, then it would be in trouble. But it looks like Gabriel Jesus has pretty much chosen us because of the reasons that I told you. He knows he's going to get the playing time. He has the relationship with the manager and the technical director. He knows what the plan is for him. And Ornstein says that we're going to build our attack around him. So that also kind of, I think, speaks to, do we need to have him playing on the wing or do we need to have him playing through the center? I think it's pretty clear he's going to be the number 9. So there's definitely that as well. Let's see. Keenan says Jesus is a done deal and Leeds are already bidding for replacements on Raphinha. The only thing stopping Raphinha deal is if we pull out. Lynn says, I was saying to you, Jess, that I didn't have a lot of faith in Edu, but he has surprised me. I think I've been very harsh on Edu, but when we get to that discussion, I'll tell you how I kind of feel about it. Let's see. So yeah, definitely wanted to just touch on those two, especially because we know that these ones were pretty much where they kind of were, but I wanted to make sure I gave anybody who wasn't sure about what was going on a more close update. So now Arsenal are leading the race for Raphinha. That's coming straight from David Ornstein. So the narrative around the Raphinha deal has changed quite a bit since last week. Before it was like it's an open race, it's very difficult to do, there's tons of teams interested. And now the narrative is kind of shifting, very similarly to the Gabriel Jesus narrative, by the way, that Arsenal are slowly becoming the favorites for Raphinha's signature. And so Arsenal are said to be on the wanting to put in another bid to get things done. I think we had kind of spoken about the moving parts in regards to the Raphinha deal, that Jorge Mendes is a big part of this deal. The Fabio Vieira, signing for Arsenal was one that Arsenal truly wanted to do because obviously the guy is really talented, but it was also a sweetener and kind of it's kind of like we want to build a relationship. So you want to try something small to see if the relationship works and then build upon that. That's pretty much what Fabio Vieira was. A lot of people are saying that it was Deco is the key to this deal getting done. It's actually not. It's Jorge Mendes. He's, he owns Guest a Foot, and Guest a Foot is, that's where Deco works. And so Jorge Mendes basically represents Raphinha as well. So having that relationship has really helped us. And also Otavio, who plays for Porto, is somebody that Leeds are actively bidding on to become Raphinha's replacement. And he's also represented by Guest a Foot, Jorge Mendes' agency. And so this is also kind of leading into the conversation around Edu and whether or not he's gained my respect. But just in short, really quickly, these are just things that we never had access to before. Super agents, facilitating relationships, using our context to make deals a lot easier, getting high quality talent into Arsenal, players that we shouldn't have any business getting, but we're getting them because we have the right mechanisms in place. And knowing Deco, facilitating that relationship with Jorge Mendes, using his contacts, and obviously we'll have to pay him, but if Raphinha works out and Fabio Vieira works out, look how much you've gotten from that relationship. And I think that that's super important. So right now, Arsenal are leading the race for Raphinha. I don't think it's anywhere near done, but it's looking more positive in our direction. And so, yeah, this is something that a couple of days ago looked very, very more difficult. Now it's looking a lot more, I wouldn't say likely, but positive. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans are really excited about Raphinha potentially coming in. I also see that a lot of rivals are trying to say that he's overrated and things like that. Raphinha is in a place in his career where he's already done the difficult work. He's already done the playing for Rennes and then coming to Leeds and then he's already done that part. He's 25. He needs to take a step up to a bigger club so we can actually see what he actually is. And so he could be anything, but he's a quality player now and he's playing in a lesser team now. So I can only imagine when he gets next to Gabriel Jesus, when he's playing with Bukayo Saka, when he's playing, in front of Martin Odegaard and Fabio Vieira and Thomas Partey, when he has Tomiyasu behind him, he'll be a lot better as well. And I think that he can end up being somewhat of when he gets to 27, 28, the type of player that a lot of people in the league think are one of the best wingers in that league. So yeah, I think Raphinha has a very high ceiling. I like the deal. I like the player. I think he's amazing. And I'm happy that it looks like he'll be an Arsenal player. I do wonder what's going to happen with Pepe. If nobody's interested in Pepe, what do we do? But equally, I like that we're making the moves before Pepe's sorted. That shows how serious we are about Raphinha. I would like us to do the same thing in midfield, which we'll talk about in just a second. But yeah, I think moving for Raphinha, even though Pepe is there, also puts pressure on Pepe and his agent to go ahead and find somewhere to go. Because at this moment in time, still an opportunity, if we weren't to bring in Raphinha, still an opportunity for Pepe to make 120 grand a week and potentially play some games for Arsenal next season with Europa League. Once you put Raphinha in the question in that, there's really no minutes for him. He's not playing. So we'll see what happens with Pepe. Not particularly worried about it because now I know we're willing to move for players without having to sell them first. So let's see what happens with the next bid and see if it's accepted. But Leeds are actively looking for a replacement for him. Seems like Barcelona is out of the race. It seems like Chelsea is preoccupied with other things like Raheem Sterling and Dembele, and Spurs are kind of out of the race. They're looking to bring in Richarlison because Raphinha would prefer to go to Arsenal. So, yeah, good deal. Semi says if Pepe stays, he will be the Carabao Cup legend. Yeah. Yusuf says 25 mil for Pepe. Omer says last year, the photo of Adu hanging out on the boat came out when the transfer window was open. That lost him some of the fans. This year, he gains back some of the ones that he lost. I was talking about this the other day, Omer, that boat had a Portuguese flag on it. I remember a lot of people were like, what does this mean? What does this mean? There was a flag sticking out of that boat, out of the boat, and it had a Portuguese flag on it. And I'm projecting here, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the beginning of him making the relationship with Jorge Mendes, because nothing came out of it, but we're seeing that relationship now. And so, yeah, like, I think it goes to show as well, like, you do have to wait, and, maybe I was too harsh or whatever, but like, at that time, it didn't make sense. It's like, what are you doing on a boat, man? Lucas says Jesus was linked to Chelsea, Spurs, and Real. Raphinha was linked to Chelsea, Spurs, and Barca. It's all media talk because their info was behind to create attention. Fair enough. Let's see. D. Cunningham says, agreed on Pepe. It is sad. The Machronicle says, has Adu earned your respect? Season hasn't even started yet. And guaranteed if things go bad, y'all will protect Adu, Arteta, and attack Adu. Am I wrong? I guess we can talk about that in a second. But, once you have the players, it's up to Arteta to get, the most out of those players. And so sometimes you don't know until midway through the season whether or not it works out, but yeah. Let's see what happens with all that. Keenan says it's going to be hard to get someone to pay Pepe's wages. Fair enough. Yeah, I think so. Elliot Roberts says if Adu could pull off Jesus, Raphinha, and Martinez, consider Adu the new certified. Fair enough. Let's see. Tamina says, any updates on Matt Turner, Arsenal to Arsenal, just please. It's done. I think it's just a matter of whether or not we're going to announce him before Leno leaves. I think that's the question, because he's going to get the same number that Leno has now, which I think is like 32 or something like that. So we might have to wait on that. But on Tuesday, me and Sophie at 10 p.m. UK time are going to do, Sophie from the Highbury squad, we're going to do a show kind of more focused on what's going on in the US and the Premier League. And we'll talk about Matt Turner. We're going to talk about Gareth Bale going to LAFC, as well as like Tyler Adams and Brandon Aronson at Leeds and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to check that out on Tuesday, I would love for you to come and watch the show. So yeah, let's definitely see what happens with Pepe and Raphinha, but looks like Raphinha is on its way. So I love it. I love it. And the reason what, like, Ramsdale, I think, is going to move to 1, and then Matt Turner will be 32. So I'm not sure what the number situation is, but that's what I was kind of reading. It's like Leno kind of has to go and they'll sort out the number things and then maybe they'll announce him, but we'll see what happens. I could be wrong. All right. So let's move on to the Sekou Fofana links. I know a lot of you guys were interested in finding out what was going on with that. Before though, let me check, because there's 357 of you guys in here. So let me see if you guys are liking the video or not. I'll be very disappointed if you are not. There's only 108 likes. Very disappointed. you guys. I'm actually very, very upset. Can you guys make sure you like the video? That would be amazing. And then in terms of has Adu earned your respect, 71% of you guys said yes. Almost 30% said no. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But Sekou Fofana has been linked to Arsenal this morning. I'll give you my thoughts on the player first. Where is the it always like where are my bookmarks? Let me find it. So annoyed by this. All right. So Arsenal would like to sign Sekou Fofana, but are facing competition from PSG and Newcastle. Lens want a transfer fee between 30 and 40 million euros. The player from the Ivory Coast would like to stay in France and play European football next season. So PSG are in pole position for Fofana, and I've already started to discuss with Lens, the player's agent, about a potential move. So the player, I was trying to do some research on him because I don't know much about him. But from my understanding, he's like 27 or something like that. Let's see. Where is his age? He's 27. He's about 6'1", and he's a physical box-to-box midfielder. That's what I've gathered. He scores quite a bit of goals. I think he had 8 goals and 1 assist this past season. And he plays in the midfield with Czech Decore. Czech Decore is the midfielder that we were linked to, but looks like he's most likely going to Crystal Palace. If it's not already been confirmed, he's going to Crystal Palace. So in that system, Fofana was the more box-to-box type of, ball progressor type midfielder. And then Czech Decore was doing more of like a Thomas Partey type of role in that midfield. So they kind of played as a partnership, and one did something and one did the other. He's very like a physical kind of, I wouldn't say he's like Sissoko, because I think he has more about him in the final third than Sissoko, but he kind of reminded me of that kind of player that once he gets the ball and he starts moving forward, it's very hard to get it off of him. And yeah, he seems like a very good player. And, I saw a lot of Arsenal fans not a lot, but I did see on socials that people were like, well, maybe this means that Tielemans is off. This is the type of player that we need. We need more physicality, all this kind of stuff. What I'll say is that if we were to bring him in, he's not somebody that would, play instead of Thomas Partey. Like, he can't do the Thomas Partey role. He's not a passer. He's a ball progressor through his dribbling, not through his passing. And he's more box to box. And Thomas Partey, that position that he plays is so specific and difficult to do that I don't think, if we usually have to use 2 players when Thomas Partey is out to do it, I don't think he's the type of player that he needs a partner. Fofana needs a partner. But he looks very good and like he's ready for a move. I don't know what this means for Tielemans, to be honest, because of the way that it's kind of been like our name was in it, but PSG are clearly pretty confident that they're going to bring him in, and they seem more interested in him, and they're already in discussions. It feels like one of those where in order to get other people interested in this, we have to put Arsenal in it so that people will look at it. More like they're using maybe some light interest to get some attention, but it's not really like something that we're really prioritizing. But I do think that there's kind of like a fear for the Arsenal fan base that we don't have enough physicality in our midfield. Like, that's very clear. Like, there's just a lot of people that we got to get this guy in. Look, he's more physical. I still think Tielemans is on. I don't think there's anything this does not feel like a link that would suggest that Tielemans is off, because he's going to probably go to PSG, and then we'll still be linked to Tielemans. So, I think the bigger question here is, why are Arsenal fans so afraid about the physicality aspect? And if they feel like having a midfield that kind of consists of a Odegaard and a Fabio Vieira, Thomas Partey / Tielemans is too lightweight for the Premier League, I think that's the bigger question, but yeah. I don't think we're really interested in this guy. That's what I'm saying. Adam says, Wijnaldum would be nice for me, experienced in class. Like, what is he even doing there? Ify says, nah, Arsenal ain't interested. Let's see. O'Malley says Tielemans feels like a Madison or Buendia again. It really doesn't, because with those ones, the reports were never as concrete with those two. They never were. Tielemans, like, we've done a lot of groundwork since January to get that deal done. You guys, it's literally a £5 million difference in valuation between Arsenal and Leicester. So somebody either needs to come up or somebody needs to go down. Leicester are a very difficult team to deal with, but he wants to go, and we've already done all the work. There was nothing ever that concrete with Madison. It was, the interest was there, but we never put in bids. Like, and we haven't put any bids for Tielemans, but there was never any, like, anything really that concrete. So I know that people are like, oh, it's a smokescreen. But if it was, and Fabio Vieira was the midfielder that we were getting, why haven't we distanced ourselves fully from the Tielemans deal? Nothing from even like the top journalists, the likes of David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano, Ben Jacobs, all of them have said that that deal is still on, and it's just about the negotiating aspect of it. £5 million valuation difference. And maybe we need to sell somebody first. Ornstein, that's kind of what he's been kind of hinting at, that maybe we need to sell somebody first. And then Ben Jacobs has just said it's about negotiating, and I think Adu wants to put the squeeze on Leicester and say, like, okay, well, we'll wait another couple of weeks. Tielemans will be more agitated. It'll cause, friction, between you and Tielemans, and then maybe you'll come down on your valuation because you also need to sell him in order to replace him. So it doesn't feel like Madison to me, because there's been so much legwork done where Buendia and Madison, there was nothing really, there was interest, but nothing like what it's been with Tielemans. I think because we want the midfielder so badly, we want to figure out why this, like, we're trying to attach a reasoning to it, but like, it literally feels like negotiations to me. Like, it doesn't feel like anything more than negotiations, I have to be honest. But in terms of Sekou Fofana, looks like a great player. Looks like somebody who's ready to move forward, but wants to stay in France. PSG are very interested in him. I don't see us really going after him. But I did want to touch on him. How's it going? People says, I prefer Fabian Ruiz over Tielemans because he's more of an all-around player. Aaron says, Jess, I feel like even if we acquire all the players we're being linked to, I still feel like we're missing a specialist, right foot, wide player. My choice would be Ismail Sarr for 20 million valuation. Okay, fair enough. Hakoum says, Fabian Ruiz is everything Arsenal fans think Xhaka is. Lucas says, we really need to wait and see who we sell and who sign a contract before we celebrate this window. So yeah, people are saying they'd rather get Fabian Ruiz. So yeah, let's see. Omer says, Arsenal has not been a physical team since the Invincibles era. Keenan says, Fofana links are probably real. We are filling out options right now for the left 8 role. Also, we might be leaking the Fofana links to show Leicester that we have other options to help negotiations. I think it's more your second sentence than the first one. This just feels like the way that Sky Sports reporter came out and put out the stuff about, oh, well, Tielemans might sign a new deal. All of that just kind of aired them out. Like, they are not happy that they're going to lose Tielemans for probably half of what his valuation would be had he had more time on his contract. They're losing one of their best midfielders, somebody that they still need to replace, that doesn't want to stay, and there's no option for him to stay. So I think Arsenal are just putting out little feelers out there, putting out little things out there, making them sweat, because he was a priority and we came with 25 million is what we want to pay. And they said, we want you to pay something different. So we decided to go and do other things while they are pretty much stalled on everything that they want to do in their transfer window because they need to sell Tielemans first. I mean, it feels like a smart move as long as Tielemans doesn't get any interest from anybody else. Like, I feel like that's pretty smart to me. If that's one of your priority signings, it's always been about 25 million. That's what we want to buy him for. So Winston says, nice to see Arsenal acting like a big club in the transfer market. Semi DG says, for Edu to really be respected, I want to see how he can make money selling off players that aren't in the future plans at the club. Keenan says, yeah, Tielemans is easily worth 50 million. They are butthurt. And Leicester are not a crappy club. Like, they know what they're doing. So I just think, we need to wait it out. Like, unless somebody big comes out and says it's done, Arsenal have completely walked away from the Tielemans negotiations, I think we just have to relax. Like, just wait a little bit, because we have some other, like, big irons in the fire right now. And there was a report from, I think it was Rudy Galletti just a couple of days ago, that said that negotiations with Leicester are going well. So I just think somebody either needs to come up or somebody needs to go down, and that's pretty much what it is. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with the Sekou Fofana links. There's about 400 of you guys in here, which is freaking amazing. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's see if we could get the video up to, let's say, like 200 likes. Let's do more, 250 likes. Let's see if we can get it up. All right. So now let's go on to something a little bit maybe not so positive, and I want to just see how you guys feel about it. Is that Marseille are confident that they will sign Saliba, and they're willing to go all the way up to 30 million euros to sign him. Now, I want to be consistent, and this is where people don't like me. This is where people don't like me, is because I am not going to change how I feel about how transfers work based on what I want to happen. I've always said that I don't think you bid for players that are not willing to come to your club. That's not how it works. You usually kind of know that a player is willing to go to you if, that's why you would bid. You don't start going out there and doing it without knowing. So if Marseille are confident that they'll sign Saliba and they're actively trying to put in bids, they started off with a loan offer and it got knocked back. Now they want to go back in with a 25 million euro offer, 30 million euro offer. They must feel like there's an opportunity to bring Saliba back. That's all I'm saying. Because why would you be bidding for a player that, is for sure coming back to Arsenal? The door would be closed and you would be looking at other options, because for Marseille, they need to go get somebody else. If they were sure that Saliba was coming back to Arsenal, then they would be actively in the market looking for somebody else, but they're pursuing Saliba still. And so I haven't even seen them looking at anybody else. That's what's kind of worrisome. So this is kind of like, when the news about Saliba doing that interview kind of came out, he said he was going to go back to Arsenal. And then also Arteta said that it's all contingent upon, whether or not we can get him to sign a new deal, which there are rumors, unconfirmed rumors, that that's kind of what's going on right now, is that they are trying to get him on a new deal. But until that happens, I think the door is still kind of open. It's small, but it's still there. And it's whether or not Arsenal will entertain it. But you don't put in bids for players that, one, the club are not interested in selling, and two, the player is not interested in going. That's just not how things work. So just kind of, yeah, and I know what you guys are saying something about, well, Villa did it, but equally also Smith Rowe was looking for a new contract. So that's where the contract negotiations come in, is Villa putting in a $35 million bid for Emile Smith Rowe also coincided with Emile Smith Rowe getting a new deal and getting the number 10 shirt. So his agent clearly used the interest from Villa to try to facilitate a deal for Emile Smith Rowe at Arsenal. So there's several different ways that you can look at this. You can look at it as Arsenal are actually open to selling Saliba, and it's kind of like under the surface, and Saliba's interested in going back, and Arsenal are also interested in selling. So that's why Marseille are putting in bids, or Saliba's agent is using the interest from Marseille to broker a new deal for Saliba. That's all I'm going to say about that. I get that, everything is positive and all that kind of stuff. And I do think ultimately, what we're doing in the market is very positive, but we have to also talk about the things that are coming out that, maybe are a little bit on the neutral side in terms of positivity. Ivy says the Saliba one looks like an Odegaard situation, that he'll stay at Madrid but changed his mind and joined Arsenal. Billy says, I think a new contract and pay rise is incoming. Billy said that. And Blaze said, Jess, we shouldn't worry about Saliba because he will not leave Arsenal this summer. I don't think Arteta wants to sell him after he had success at Nice and Marseille. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to sell him right now for me, because you said you wanted two good players in each position. Ben White and Saliba are significantly stronger than Ben White and Rob Holding. And I'm sorry, but another season of Rob Holding for me is too risky. It's too risky because the levels are just too different between the two. And so for me, it makes more sense to keep him. But I want to just remain consistent that usually teams don't bid for players that aren't interested in going to their club. And if the selling club is not interested in selling, do you know what I mean? So it may just be contract negotiations, which is what I'm hoping it is. And Nike says, I think it's a part of contract negotiations. I don't think Arteta would want to weaken the squad before giving him a chance. He literally has to give him a chance. Like, it's time for him to come, and play for Arsenal. Like, it just wouldn't make sense. Billy says, apparently Lisandro is a done deal, 35 plus 5 million, a lot of money, but it's worth it, I guess. Is it confirmed by somebody in particular or in the know or what? Because in the knows, they just be like guessing. Like, I swear they guess all the time. So if it's in the know, let me know. Or if it's more, somebody specific that has some backing, like, let me know who it is that's saying that. I don't see anything just yet. Let's see. I'm just looking to make sure I don't see anything. I do think Martinez gets done. I really do. I think it's a priority signing. But again, like, don't weaken your right side and then have a really strong left side. Like keep it even. Saliba has to stay. Let's see. Richie Rabbit says we have plenty of games and Saliba can start lots of them. Exactly. CeeLo says, I think it has to do with contract negotiations. Wouldn't be surprised if a decent offer came in and they would sell him, but at the same time, ESR, the same situation, and it was around the contract renewal. Exactly. Hakum says, we needed to sign a veteran CB instead of White. In hindsight, Konate at Liverpool is cool because he has someone like Matip playing in front of him. I think I'd prefer to just give White a second season. Like, there was a lot of difference of opinion around Gabriel when he first came in. And then his second season, everybody realized how good he was. I just kind of would like to wait on Ben White a little bit before I say, like, it was a mistake or in hindsight, we should have done something different. I think for the better part of the season, White and Gabriel were really good, but they also needed like backups, people that could come in and push them in competition. And they didn't have that as well. So yeah, like, I think, Ben White needs some time. Like, he just needs another season, but that's just me. Nashville says White was our most consistent CB this season. I just feel like because some people have never really let go of the Saliba situation. I'm not saying that, this is just you guys, but I just see it all the time where I just feel like everybody's so thing about Saliba that they just put it on Ben White. It just gets transferred over to Ben White. And then so it's confirmation bias every time that he makes a mistake, but he makes the same mistakes that other defenders make. It just is what it is, So yeah, but moving on to just a short discussion with you guys about Hazardou earned your respect. I do see a lot of people saying, let the respect be as loud as the disrespect or something like that. I don't know what the saying is, but you guys know what I mean. It's like, he's been somebody that's been met with like a lot of criticism and a lot of don't believe this guy is good enough. I know I've been somebody that's been very vocal about me not feeling like Adu is good enough. Because up until this point, I haven't seen somebody that I felt like had the right connections and the right mechanisms in place to get Arsenal back to where they wanted to go. And recruitment is so, so important. And it's all you have. Recruitment is so important because talent is more important than anything. So if you can't bring in the right types of players and you're bringing us Williams and you're canceling a bunch of contracts and, of course, my ideas around you are not going to be great. And it doesn't help that like he has a close relationship with Raul. His relationship with Kia has been detrimental to Arsenal. And so I don't think that, this is the time to say, I told you so. Edu was like this great, director of football, because let's just be clear, there was enough evidence there for Arsenal fans to feel like he wasn't good enough. So if you're somebody that feels like the club is doing everything right and Edu has always been great and Arteta's always been great, there's enough evidence there that you can pull forward and pull from and say, this is why I don't think that Edu is good enough. So like, I'm not about to say like I was wrong on all of that, or anybody who wasn't sure on Edu was wrong, because there's just enough evidence there to be like, come on. But what I will say is that with me, there's always an opportunity to change my mind. There's always an opportunity to change my mind, because I'm never so stuck in a way of thought where it's like, if you were to prove that you were good enough because I said you weren't before, I'm going to pretend like it's not good and all this kind of stuff and lie. I'm not. You always have the opportunity to change my mind, 100%. And because I want Edu to be good enough. I want Arteta to be good enough. Like, I want these people to be good enough because I want Arsenal to be good. If they're not, I want them gone. But if they are good enough, then I'm cool with it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I am with Edu. I thought this window was going to be a make or break one for him, because, at the beginning of last season, there was a lot of negativity around the transfer window. I thought it was a good window, but a lot of people thought it was bad because they didn't believe in the Ramsdale stuff, Ben White. There was just a lot of like, why are we spending this money on these players? They're not very good. We didn't address the attack. We didn't really get a midfielder. We got Sambi instead. But it ended up that I think the 4 players that started were actually really good signings: Odegaard, Ben White, Ramsdale, and Tomiyasu. I thought they were all successful. I thought Tavares was a punt, didn't quite work out. And Sambi was too far away from Thomas Partey to be the backup to him. And so that ended up derailing our season again. Left back, central midfield derails our season again. So, you can always look back and say, like, if we had prioritized midfield, would we have, made top 4? If we had done something in January, would we have made top 4? So we've had those discussions before. But this summer, I think you could tell that there was a long-term approach to attacking the transfer window. We wanted to make sure that we had our targets early. We wanted to make sure that we had already facilitated conversations with their agent. We had already wanted to make sure that the money was there. We wanted to make sure that we had gotten rid of the wages, because in the past, Arsenal have always had to sell first in order to get your targets. This summer, we've been able to move quickly because the wages were already there. The money was already available. And I think that makes a huge difference in how the window pans out for you. So what you can see is that there's been kind of a plan to make sure that the mistakes of the past don't haunt us again this summer. So if you're able to get Gabriel Jesus, Raphinha, Fabio Vieira, Martinez all done before preseason, those guys are in there ready to go by the time we start our preseason games. And, they're there for the beginning of the season, which is something that we didn't have. And so the plan, I think, has been a lot better. The preparation, I think, is a sign of learning and making sure you don't make the same mistakes. Now, in terms of the players that we're going after, I think are the right types of players. We're not going after more kids. We're going after players that, have some experience and can really add some more oomph to the team. When we played against the better teams, we often looked young. And I think that that's kind of like the bad thing about having so many kids in the team, is that obviously you have the youthful exuberance and you have like a very young and exciting team. But when you play against teams that are sure that they could beat you up, you start to look really young. And last season we looked young, we lacked the experience, and the experienced players were crap all season. for the better part of last season, like Lacazette was half good and then half bad. Aubameyang was pretty much bad the entire season. Xhaka was okay. Thomas Partey was injured and crap and then good. So Tierney injured the entire season. So we didn't have that senior presence. And so adding Raphinha, adding Gabriel Jesus, potentially adding Tielemans, adding Martinez, they're the types of players that still have enough time where they can get better, but where they are right now, they're better than what we have. And that's really important. So I like who we're going after. It looks like we're being aggressive. But more than anything, what I like about what Adu has done this summer is the relationships that he's building and how they're going to help us now and in the future. So we know that they're looking to create some sort of partnership with Watford. I thought that was smart. So that when you send players on loan, they can be close to Arsenal so we can watch them. Smart. Want to facilitate a relationship between Arsenal and Sao Paulo. Some of the best Brazilian players of all time have come from Sao Paulo. Wanting to get in on the ground floor for those types of talents instead of paying nothing for Marquinhos, you pay $3 million to facilitate that relationship. Again, that's very similar, obviously on a bigger scale, but very similar to what we did with Fabio Vieira. I give you a little something so that we facilitate the relationship, and then we handshake, and then we're ready to go. Also looks like we're trying to build some sort of relationship with Feyenoord as well, which is important. Because the Dutch league also comes up with a lot of really good talent. So I thought that was really smart. Then now we're also facilitating relationships with super agents, good ones, no Kias, no Kias he has some of the worst clients I've ever seen. Like, I don't know how he makes money because he has the worst client list I've ever seen. But having a relationship with Jorge Mendes makes a lot of sense for Arsenal because where we are right now, we can't really attract the best players without having those relationships. So I think Edu has really earned my respect in terms of a lot of the things that I really could not stand about him. He's done a lot better in this window. Relationships, working with good agents, having a plan, executing it quickly, learning from your mistakes, things like that. Now, like last summer's window, I do feel like you need to wait for it to conclude first because there needs to be sales. There's still questions around, can he sell players? So the likes of what do we get for Bern Leno, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Bellerin, Torreira, Pepe? What are we going to get for those players? That's really important. And, do these deals actually come to fruition, and are they actually good? Do they work out? Because we saw that once we got into the business end of the season, Sambi and Nuno didn't look as good as they did when the season first started. And that was because we had reached their limit and they actually weren't really good enough to do what we expected them to do. So for me, Edu is changing my mind. Has he earned my respect? Let's wait for the window to end. You need more than one or two good windows for me to be completely sold. But what I will say is he does deserve credit where credit is due. And I think the way that he has attacked this window has been really important and could be the beginning of his redemption arc, because let's be real. The stocks for Edu were really, really low before this window started. So yeah. Let's see. Lucas says, Jess, update on Raphinha. 50 million base fee offer was, first offer was 30 million plus add-ons. Deal close. Simon Jones, Mail Sport. Amazing. Hakum says, for me, Edu's just trying to be active. Edu just trying to be active is respectable. Fair enough. Yeah, because we were kind of very slow before. Billy says maintaining a relationship is worth much more than 3.5 million. Let's see. Oya Talani says, I see peeps saying that we should sell for significant fees. How do you do that with a player everyone knows you don't want in your team? Ask him to sell Saka and see if he will see significant fees. So what I will say about that is that this is where Arteta really becomes important, because the way that he's been heavy-handed with some of the players that he doesn't want in his team, I think has also hurt our negotiating power in the market. Because when you make it really obvious that you don't want Torreira at all, make it really obvious you don't want Guendouzi, make it really obvious you don't want so-and-so, it's hard to negotiate. The more a player is wanted and the more highly thought of they are, the more likely the buying club will give you more money for him, because it's a more it's a more valuable asset. But somebody that nobody wants and the club is like, shut the door behind you, it makes it very difficult. So I do think some of the things that Arteta has done has hurt Edu's ability to maneuver in the market. And that's kind of like the the negative part about having somebody so new in the management position. As a coach, I think Arteta is very great, but in terms of what he's doing, how he manages situations, I think does hurt us in the market. So there's that as well. No, I'm not looking at Sekou Fofana's wiki page. Aaron Lawrence, why are you spamming? I'll put you on timeout for that. Let's see. CeeLo says building networks in Brazil and the Netherlands is a good sign. We need to get our hands in these markets. Young players are also being loaned out early. Also, even Ballard, I'm disappointed it's low. But is it low? I'm not sure that what would you have expected to get for somebody who I get that maybe somebody like Mark Gahey. What did he go for? 15 million or something, and he never played a game for Chelsea, and he came from a team in the Championship, Swansea maybe, and then went to Crystal Palace for a lot of money. But I think also perception is really significant. So the perception around Chelsea is that their academy is really good. They're a really good team. They're really well run. So any player that you get from them is probably going to be worth something. Over the last 10 years, the perception of Arsenal has not been very good. So you feel like you're getting a player that's probably not that great. So I think we have a ways to go to build up the perception where we can sell these players that, really Ballard, you wouldn't expect to get that much for him. Let's be honest. He's never really played for Arsenal. He, is a young player just coming into his own. You wouldn't expect to get a lot for him, I think. And I get because maybe people are saying, well, he's an international. I get that. But I think it's just a matter of perception for us to be able to really maneuver in the market the way people want us to. But he does need to sell more. And it'll be interesting to see because the way that Arteta has worked with Pepe or not worked with Pepe, I do think is going to hurt Edu's ability to sell him in the market because he's not somebody that people have seen very much. He doesn't have the perception around him is not great. And so we'll see what happens with that. But I understand that people want bigger fees, but I also think there has to be a context applied to it. But he does in general, need to sell better. Yeah. So Mark Gahey, went for 20 million from Chelsea, but is that the exception or is that the rule? So is it most players go for that kind of fee, or is that an exception to the rule? You have to also think about what's the likelihood of it happening a bunch of times, the perception of the club. Chelsea just have a really good perception of their academy players. People are willing to spend a lot of money on them because that is the best academy in the country. We just don't have that pool yet. Hugo says, did we not insert a buyback clause on Ballard? We did. Reggie says, Jess, what if Arteta did work with Pepe, but it just hasn't been taken? Yeah, there's the aspect of what if Arteta did a lot behind the scenes to try to help Pepe and it just never came out on the pitch? I do think that, that's definitely something that could have happened. I think it's an equal, if you want to say blame, I would say maybe 40% Arteta, 60% Pepe. Because I do think that Arteta had a hard time working with what he has, and there's multiple examples of it. But Pepe also was somebody that did not really try to adapt as well. So Arteta didn't adapt to Pepe. Pepe didn't adapt to Arteta. So it's just like a bunch of crap all mixed together. But I do understand that maybe Arteta did really work with Pepe, and it just never came out. Billy says, I like how Edu finally saying the right things he seemed to learn from last season. Reggie says, because that breakaway failure was totally on Pepe. Breakaway, yeah, no, I hear. Don't even remind me of that. Just thinking about that is oh my gosh, he was so bad. Billy says, what City have done with the Brazil market is what Arsenal are trying to replicate and do better. City managed to sign top talents like Gabriel Jesus, Kakai, even Douglas Luiz, and sell them for profit. these are important moves that have to be done. And I would imagine that Adu would have a little bit more pull because he has a direct link to the national team. Um, City have been very smart, and I mean, don't try to recreate the wheel. If there's things that you can do that are really smart, do them, even if other people are already doing them. So yeah, I do think we should have some sort of, not a monopoly, but a advantage in the South American market based on Adu's supposed like relationships down there. I just had never seen it before, but it seems to be coming out now, which is good. Let's see. Let's see. iGamer says Adu will get better. Nashville says, is Douglas Luiz still available? I like that link. I don't know. I mean, I would imagine if, well, Aston Villa really wanted Basuma and they didn't get him. So I would imagine Douglas Luiz stays now. So yeah. Keenan says, Marquinhos was a great buy. I think we should be in for Danilo at Palmeiras this summer. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Danilo. I mean, there's probably some interest there. We may have not pulled the trigger this summer. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Let's see what else you guys are saying. I think I saw, hold on, I saw a super chat as well. Sorry, guys. I need to go all the way back. I feel like it was from SheKnowsFootball as well. Thank you so much. I know I saw the super chat come in and I thought I started. And I don't think I made a mistake. I'm sorry, guys. If you sent a super chat, oh, here you go. Thank you so much, SheKnowsFootball. I really do appreciate your super chat. And then we also have a new member named, I don't want to say Crispy Rice, but that's what it looks like to me. Oh, it is Crispy Rice. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. I really appreciate it. Let's see. I see Osimhen. Why are we still talking about Osimhen? Blaze says, Jess, you're right. I think Arteta should at least try to work with Pepe after he scored against Wolves. Arteta should give a chance to Pepe to play against Brighton and Southampton and rest Saka. I mean, like, for me, like, how do I explain it? It's so hard because I just feel, I think Pepe was a difficult player to work with, but equally, I do think if you put a different manager at Arsenal, that they would look at some of the players that Arteta was unwilling to really work with and get more out of them. So I'm not saying that they were lost causes. I think they were lost cause under Arteta because he was very rigid in what he wanted to do and how he wants his players to play. And I get that Arteta wants to play a certain way, and players that can't play that way kind of get left in the cold. But, you know, I think we have hurt in the short term from it, but we may benefit in the long term. I don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see. Nashville says Vieira, he's like an Arteta's version of Silva. Fair enough. Idawu says the additions so far are great. Saliba, Turner from the USA goalkeeper, Marquinhos, Fabio Vieira, and Gabriel Jesus. Well done, Edu and Arteta. Please get Martinez from Ajax at all costs. Fair enough. South London's finest B says even with Edu, just also his team, Richard Garlick, etc., need to do better with contract. But if we plug all of our gaps, clap, 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 clap. Geoff says, Jess, you skipped over the buyback clause, but I think the point that the guy meant was that buyback clauses affect the price first time around. Fair enough. That's definitely something that I didn't take into consideration, but I definitely hear that. And when we talked about Ballard the other day, what I did say is that I think that's something that we haven't seen from Arsenal very much is buyback clauses and clauses that really help us. So if Ballard goes to Burnley and does a good job, which I'm sure he will, when they get ready to sell him, we can be in that, if we want to. So yeah, I think we just, I think that was smart, but we're still waiting to see what happens with the players that we want to sell. So yeah. Winston says Pepe never really settled. He doesn't seem happy. Some moves just don't work out. Cut our losses and move on. Olorado says, what's the realistic aim for next season, Jess? And what do you think happens if we don't reach said targets next season? I think that these are the types of conversations that we'll definitely have within the next month or so, because preseason will start. We'll know what our team looks like. And we'll have big conversations around this because a lot of media outlets are going really big on the Arsenal transfer window and saying how good the window looks so far. And with that comes a lot of pressure, and the it's just like with the top 4 race, people really pumping us up, and then when we didn't make it, they killed us for it. And so I do think there's going to be a big, like, well, if Arsenal spend 200 million, they should get into the top 4. And I tend to kind of agree with that. I do think that based on the foundation that we built, I would imagine that top like top 4 at the minimum has to be the requirement, especially because Arteta will have been fully backed. And what has always been kind of like the I think caveat with Arteta has always been he doesn't have his players. He's missing this guy. He's missing this guy. He'll have as close as possible to a team with 2 good players in every single position. He needs to beat the allegations of not being able to play in multiple competitions at one time. There's a lot of pressure there, but I would say my realistic would be finish in the top 4 and go far in each competition. I mean, not all of them, because even the best teams kind of bomb out of like the Carabao Cup and stuff. But in terms of the FA Cup, I'd expect us to get a lot further than we did this season. Semifinals at the least, and Europa League, got to be looking like we're going to win that. You got to make the top 4, you got to do something, it's going to be hard because I do think other teams are going to improve as well, but we've had enough time now. We've set the foundation of the way that we want to play. We have good young players that are going to get better. We have a foundation of a back 5 that really worked. We have one of the best midfielders on his day at the base of our midfield. We will have brought in 5 to 6 new players that are prime age, that are better than what we have. Like, something has to come out of that. Something has to, as far as I'm concerned. Keenan says, if Raphinha comes in and Saka's new role is left wing, should we be looking to keep Pepe for squad depth? Well, if Raphinha comes in, what my expectation would be is that Saka would be fighting with him for that position. Arteta seems to like inverted wingers, so you don't really see, unless we're in a very where the team is kind of skint, because we don't have, many people to play because we have injuries. What you'll usually see is Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left. We play inverted wingers as far as I know. So I would imagine Saka and Raphinha would be fighting for that right side. And Martinelli would be on the other side, and so would Emile Smith-Rowe. So that would be a strange situation for Pepe to kind of be in. But if we weren't able to sell Pepe, would I be like devastated if he stayed? No, like maybe another season, with better players, maybe he would do a little bit better. Maybe we could play him Carabao Cup. I don't know. But I would imagine that Saka would stay on the right and he would fight with Raphinha for that position. Maybe Saka moves to the left. I'm not sure. But I just think you need as many options as possible. You need to have as much flexibility as possible, which is what we'd have. We just have to see what Arteta's thinking. We have no idea what Arteta's thinking right now. Raphinha could play on the left, but I don't know. I would imagine Saka and Raphinha would stay on the right. That would be me. Give me a second. People are saying, look at stuff. I hate when you guys say it. Like, there has to be something there, though, you guys, because a lot of times you guys say look at stuff and then there's nothing there. And I feel like you're just doing it to make me look. Oh, shit. Hold on a minute. Todd Bowley met Jorge Mendes in Portugal last week. Idea is for Cristiano Ronaldo to Chelsea among subjects discussed. Unclear if CFC will pursue. Man United expect him to stay. 37-year-old loves United but has concerns. Whew. It's getting deep. I mean, a lot of Man United fans were very, just did a lot of like this, about the rumors about Cristiano Ronaldo not being happy and wanting to leave. But he only has a couple of seasons, maybe 1 or 2 at the highest level. And I'm sure he wants to play Champions League. He wants to have the opportunity to win the Premier League. And he's not really probably going to get that with Man United for the next 2 seasons. So or next season. So, you know, but that would leave Manchester United in a very precarious scenario. And because Cristiano Ronaldo would have to be paid with a fee because he's not, wouldn't be a free signing, I do have a hard time believing that that would happen. Because now that the likes of like Gabriel Jesus are gone, Nunez, Holland, who would they bring in as a striker? You know, Greenwood is still having his situation. Are they're gonna be stuck with Martial? Like there's no other good strikers out there unless, I mean, maybe they would go for Osman, you know. So oof, at least it's not us. That's all I gotta say. CC, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Says, I agree, Jess. No more excuses. He needs to make real progress this year. Top shit. What was I saying? Top four should be the absolute least achievement. Arsenal need to win again. Exactly. I do think we need to. Top four has to be the bare minimum requirement. Like it just has to be. And if it doesn't look like we're gonna get it, things need to happen. You know. So I do agree. Whew. I can't believe that tweet, that Ornstein, because Ornstein doesn't lie. He doesn't lie. Like he doesn't put stuff out there that he doesn't feel like has credibility to it. So there's something there. Whether or not it gets done, you know, we don't know. But that just shows. It just shows it all. You know, that move was so weird for Cristiano Ronaldo to go back to Manchester United. I know it seemed like it made sense at the time, but it was just basically Sir Alex Ferguson couldn't stand to see him go to City and potentially win the Champions League. They brought him in, and you know, I think he was so good last season because obviously he's a world-class player, but you know, it hasn't really it doesn't seem like that was the right move now because he was always going to want to win trophies. And last season they were abysmal. But yeah, oh well, it's not us. So let's look at the poll one last time, see what you guys are saying. 67% of you guys said that Adu has earned your respect, and 33% of you guys said no. So there's still a little bit of a ways to go, but we'll see what happens at the end of the window. We'll talk all about, we'll grade the window, we'll do all that. And so tomorrow, depending on what kind of news comes out, I will be back. And then, like I said, on Tuesday, look forward to the show with Sophie and I from the Highbury squad, because we'll be talking more about not just Arsenal stuff, but you know, Gareth Bale to LAFC, Matt Turner, what we should expect from him. Leeds looking to bring in, they already did Brendan Aronson, but they're also looking to bring in Tyler Adams. So if you're American, you might really like this show. If not, come anyway. It's still going to be a fun time. And like the video, subscribe to the channel before you guys leave. I really do appreciate all of your support, all of the likes and all of that. Super chats are great. 320 of you guys liked the video, so I will take that. That's amazing. And I will see you guys potentially tomorrow. All right, guys.